Howdy folks, I'm Keith Bowen, this is Hard Rock University. Now today we're going to be discussing cementation, sometimes called electrolysis plating. When you have metallic ions in a solution, which you do when you're leaching or if you're dissolving precious metals from electronics or whatever, the ions can exchange for other ions. Now you might have seen, like with Street Tips, where he dissolves silver in nitric acid, and then after he neutralizes, he dissolves so much that it won't dissolve anymore, which kind of neutralizes the nitric. Then he adds copper and it will precipitate out the silver while the copper goes into solution. Now this effect we use for a test here. This is some of our stripping solution, and this is just a copper strip. Now by putting the copper strip into the stripping solution, we can tell about how much gold is in it by how fast you get a good gold coating, or when you don't at all. So this allows us to test it, but here's where it can be a real problem. When you design your system, if you don't take this into account, or if you don't take into account when you have dissimilar metals like say steel and copper in a conductive solution, it actually creates a battery and it will create an electric charge there, and you can get plating where you don't want it. Now on this new system I'm working on, we wanted to go to a bigger system so we'll have more capacity for next year, and one thing we were using was a heating element. It was a 1,000-watt heating element that's designed to be put in a bucket, and I was suspicious at the time that I got it that the stainless steel was going to pose an issue, just with previous experience we've had with this stripping solution. And so I was kind of prepared for that, but I was still rather shocked to see just how much gold precipitated out on the heating element. Now here's a picture of the heating element after just 2 batches of gold. See how that stainless is just coated with gold. Then when I decanted the solution out of the bucket, look at all this gold in the bottom of the bucket too. So I went and took that big heat shield off of the outside and spray painted it with an epoxy paint. We'll see how that works. But in the 2 batches that we did with that heating element, roughly 1/3 of the total gold in the system wound up, plated onto the heating element, and then falling off into the bottom of the bucket. So you can see that if you design your system improperly, like for example if you had copper tubing for this system here, you're going to be plating the inside of your copper tubing, and that's not a good thing.
Bottle brushes, they're a thing.
It depends on how tightly it plates.
Yeah, that's true.
Luckily it's plating fairly loosely and we're able to easily scrub it off. But when you're designing a leaching system, like say a cyanide heap leach or whatever, everything's plastic that they can, no galvanized whatsoever. Galvanize that zinc, that's what they use to precipitate gold out of cyanide solutions over a century ago. That was a standard technique. Depending upon what you're doing, what the solution is, what the ions are, things like copper, brass, stainless steel, even iron may precipitate stuff. For example, iron will precipitate copper out of solution. So we need to be very, very careful whenever there's any metal in a solution like that, that it's not the wrong metal, or else you could have a real problem in terms of getting the precious metals where you want them to go.
Like that bright yellow hose fitting we have?
Yes, we have a nice brass fitting out there at the ranch that it's very yellow now. It was brass, now I suspect it's gold-plated brass, but it's not going to be thrown away. It will be, we'll recover the gold off of it before we throw it away. But yes, it's one of those things you need to take into account, and if you're not sure, take some of your solution like this and try it. If you're using two dissimilar metals, just try and avoid, if at all possible, just go all plastic everywhere and you won't have a problem. But that is not what you want on the inside of a copper pipe or whatever. So be very, very careful with that. Happy prospecting and keep it safe out there.